music, and what will it do based on what we have learned already? Design thinking, and then the business model.
I missed the class the other time. But with the design thinking, I think when you, let's say, when you are coming with a particular, product, you want to, I'm in a school. So let me say I'm a teacher. Let me say, if I want to design a particular classroom to facilitate smooth student learning, I think I have to consider the concern of the students. Then
I want you to discuss with the relevance of the video, the one we just played, the dancing, the setting.
It didn't show. Then I didn't see the video. I only saw at a point when I joined, the video was playing. I didn't.
It just played just right now. You had already joined.
I didn't see the video.
No, the video didn't come. The second one didn't show.
Oh, but who saw it?
The video didn't show at all. It was only the sound. Maybe people saw it.
Who saw it?
I only heard sound. I didn't see anything, but I could hear sound.
Oh. I didn't hear sound or see. For the second video, I only saw the first one, the timbali.
You saw the timbali, but you didn't see this one.
Yeah, the second one.
Let me try it and let's see. If it doesn't come, then we Can you see it now?
Yeah,
you can see it?
Yes, please.
So just watch it carefully and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so back to our discussion. At what point in your engagement within your model or in the context of design thinking, will you engage with this type of video and setting? And what will it do to your work? And whether it's even important to have something like that.
Well, for me, I would say is during the ideating point in design thinking process.
You would engage it around the ideation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other person? We'll discuss it. We'll discuss the other things here. Or if you have any other reason why you are bringing it at ideation point.
I just want to explain why I said during the ideation process.
Okay.
Because the ideation process is about brainstorming to come up with creative solutions. So to actually get people, to listen to you, it's good to just organize a little, party for them. Africans, we like I don't know, we like enjoyment. Let me put it that way. So you can be able to get their attention. Then, I think that's all.
Okay. That's fine. Any other?
I think this could be used for the empathizing phase. That should be the first stage.
Why?
I think events like this bring about a warmer atmosphere. People are able to share problems that they wouldn't ordinarily discuss with you about. They will be in a freer position to answer your questions in case you have questions that have to do with the social enterprise that you are building.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll also side with Heritage on the empathize stage. I think that's the point that maybe at the traditional setting, let me see, I think this one is rather within a traditional setting that you familiarize with the people, they will be able to open up. You also understand their perspective. Like last time I mentioned that those who were not patronizing hospital due to their orientation or their inclination towards traditional medicine. So I think by engaging them at this stage or empathizing stage, you'll be able to come out or come to the midpoint so that you'll be able to design a particular system or mechanism to help the consumer or the customer at this end.
Okay. Okay. Any other? Any other? Sarah? Josephine? Josephine? Amanda, you said you didn't hear, you didn't see, now you saw it. So what is the significance? Why will you create this type of setting?
Okay. Like this is just by the way, but like in a typical basic class, when you hear your name mentioned, you're like, hey, whoa, what have I done? But I side with what they've said about the empathizing stage as well, because at this point, you bring them together, you bring the community people together, and you try to understand what you get curious about the problem, you get to understand, they give you information, you understand what has gone on, what has happened previously, why it happened that way. So they get to open up to you, because this type of gathering gives some kind of energy. It gives I think it gives people the sense of being free, liberated, so they feel they are free to give any information of the sort that you need. So I think you would need this kind of gathering, or it signifies, I mean, yeah, this kind of gathering would take place during the empathizing stage.
Okay. Okay. So we are all on the right track. You need to create that sense of togetherness, that sense of belonging, and then you break all the social barriers. Now, if you watch the video carefully, what you see is that you see women actively involved, you have the kids actively involved, you have the church actively involved, you have the people of all walks of life, you know, the opinion leaders, everyone in the community has been represented. And so this becomes like your community entry strategy. At whatever you're doing, the stakeholder engagement phase, and trying to begin with your empathy. Now, it even becomes even more useful when you or members of your team also take part in dancing. What then happens is that when you break the group and everybody goes home, this is what you'll be remembering. Oh, this is what you did. And then when you engage them, people are free to tell you what you want to, the things that they should tell you. Now, if you don't create conditions like that, and you should be able to sustain it. And so even at the ideation stage, you should be able to have the condition created. But because we are constrained with time and money, you may not be able to do an elaborate thing like this. You could then, as you are breaking into the various teams in the various sub-community, you'll be able to get that. Now, this point also gives you the latitude to observe. And then you begin to see areas of even the power play. As if you are very keen observer, you begin to see the community influences in here. And that would guide you in how you do your engagement. You know, then, you know, you've told them, this is the reason we are here. We are going to do this, you know, without making any promises. You want to learn from them, and then you can cite example. That is why we even took part in learning your dancing, and you know, it's amazing. Something like that. You know, there is no one size fit all strategy. You always have to gauge the communities that you are going in. And one of you said, you know, Africans like enjoyment. So once you have that in mind, that look, there's that thing about Africans, this, if you are able to do this about Africans or within this particular community, you would get their distance. I went in many years ago, we're designing what we call the income smoothing program. Now, the income smoothing program was designed on the basis that the women in a particular community or in some particular communities did not have money throughout the year. So if you plotted it on a number line, major part of the year, they had negative income. And so they made up that income through remittances that they got from other places, or they even sold their cash bank. And you know their cash banks are either they store their money in animals or something like that. So when they go poor, they sell them. They sell those animals or whatever produce that they've done. So wanted to do something that will give these women an income smoothing, and then bring that 7 months of negative income into positive. And now the other part of it was that we also noticed that they had nutrition problem. And so we wanted to demonstrate how we could improve their nutrition status, and then how it also fits into the income smoothing thing. So these people in this community were asked whatever they could do, and we're going to do empowerment program for them. So I went to the field with the team from Washington, D.C. We went there, we're gathering the data to begin our design and using the design thinking approach. The first thing, when they cook food in their traditional food that they do. Now, one of the things about food is that if you have never taken that particular food of the other people, the first time you are taking it, sometimes it's always very difficult to take it. And so when they brought the food and then they listen, I just went in and started eating. Apparently that caught on with the community and said, look, these people are one of us. They're eating the way they're eating the food. They love it. Whether we love it, I'm sure there were the smiles on our face made them to think that we loved it or something like that. And then those of you who understand food, some food you can't mix them. If you mix some food, you easily get constipated, but we were just mixing them and eating, and then in the evening I think we'll sort out ourselves when we get to our hotel. But that alone made the women in the community to open up, and then they gave us a lot of things, and we designed the program. And this particular community was a very strong. The women and the men they are very strong people. When I say strong, they understand. Yes, they are not well educated in the Euro sense, the modern education, but they are enlightened. They know their rights, and they know what they want. And so when we even designed and we had to give them equipment that were motorized, the people refused to take the equipment. They wanted equipment that were powered by electricity. And there was no electricity in the community, but they said that is what they wanted. So we let the equipment there for like 2 years, and they still didn't use them. And we had to repossess them to redistribute it to other communities. So when you go in with things like this, you get people on board, and it is your community entry strategy that can improve the extent to which you get your empathy right, the extent to which you can do your ideation right. If you go in there and you are not able to enter the community properly, you would fail. And a lot of our programs have failed because our community entry strategy has not been properly thought out. And so we go in there, and the people will tell us what we want to hear. What you want to hear is not necessarily what is good for them. And then you come a year later, and we are at the same place. We haven't moved forward. So always get the environment properly, get all the stakeholders on board. If you don't get all stakeholders on board, and I cited the example of the oil companies, the Italian oil company that was doing something. They have done something in the Delta, region in Nigeria, and then they are doing something in the Cape Trade points of Ghana, and then they're going into the Cote d'Ivoire. So if you don't get things right, their investment is going to really be out. And this community decided to throw us out, but we still persevered, and then the program was finally accepted, and then we moving on. Today, what we're going to do is move it a step higher and look at how do we manage crisis. For all of us, I think we saw COVID. COVID swept all of us on our feet. We just were swept off our feet. That is what COVID did to all of us. You know, I've always said that the most of our governments are not thinking in the modern sense. They have, in all our countries, we have national security, but I think our national securities are still in the ages of thinking that net security is mainly or intelligence gathering is just about foiling some war, or you know, that's the way they think. It's about arms. But we've gone beyond that, and now the intelligence gathering should have considered and seen that the COVID was just coming. I mean, the issue of COVID, for example, was on the walls. If you read the literature, the issues on COVID were on the walls somewhere in August. That is where an intelligence should have been able to capture it. But nobody, we all went to sleep up until some of us were in working, and then we just got that it's called COVID is coming, the lockdown. I remember traveling to go and facilitate a session for a strategic plan for my clients, an NGO. And when I got in there, sometime, I think it was in December, December that I went in. And then that was when COVID started showing signs here and there. And then for me, it was an opportunity I got from something that I actually was not prepared to do. When I got in to do the work, they hadn't told me, given me the scope of work properly. So they had just spelled the scope of work, and then the next 2 days I was supposed to begin my process. And I didn't know what to go and say. I didn't have any slide, nothing at the time. 2 days was, you know. So I quickly went in and began to think, out of the box. And then bingo, I hit COVID and said, this is what there should be the focal point of the discussion that we're going to have. When I started discussing the COVID with the organization, they didn't even think about it. It didn't cross anybody's mind, because COVID, nobody thought that it was going to be like it was going to be the way it came, So it was when I finished, and then in let's say February, when now things became clear that COVID was now spreading or it was hitting, that was when the organization called me and said, you behave like you were a soothsayer. And I said, no, I just had to do something. But I didn't tell them that it was because I wasn't prepared. That is why I rather went in to do within that crash program. I did a lot of work to bring out the other hidden issues rather than the normal things about strategy that everybody knows, And in the end, it helped the organization to really refocus. So by the time COVID hit and there was lockdown and all those things, they were already prepared because they had already been hinted about 4 or 3 months earlier, And so what we have to begin to think is, in the work that we are doing, there are always crises, and we have to look at the different types of crises and how we would manage them. How many of you have know of this new artificial intelligence thing that is being unleashed on us, chatbot or chat GPT? How many of you are familiar with it? Who is familiar with it, or who hasn't heard of chat GPT or chatbot? Who hasn't heard of it? Or who has heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, please, I've heard of it.
I'm not familiar with it.
You've heard of it, you're not familiar. Have you read about it? Have you
Yes, I've read about it and I've used it as well.
used it? Correct. And you've seen the dislocation that is going to cause. So the question is, for you, you don't have a problem. You don't have a problem. You still have a lot of years. Your problem and fear now is whether it will put you off and you won't get you won't be functional, or you rather not get work to do. So it is a challenge to other professions. I think the whole sphere of artificial intelligence is a challenge to our work. And I was telling somebody the other day that I started reading about it in the health area, and only to go to the hospital and then a robot gives me injection. Then I'm like, at that point, I wasn't. It didn't occur to me that no. So what effectively it has done is that the nurse that we need, no nurse will be there. But in this case, you still need a human being, because somebody has to be there to tell you, the patient. So like in my case, they have to tell me that you're going to have this injection, and this injection is going to be done by this robot. And the robot, a robot doesn't know feelings. The injection is just coming. Even if I'm crying, it's just coming. And this is the way the sensation is going to look like. So you see need, but instead of maybe looking for 2 nurses to go on rotation, I can now have 1 nurse, and the nurse would be there because the robot doesn't get tired. It just be jabbing, like that. So the whole artificial intelligence is also about issues around crisis. It's going to introduce a lot of crisis to whatever we are going to do. And we need to really prepare ourselves and see whether, and for us in leaders don't think, and I've been telling you, leaders don't think about the problems. Leaders think about the opportunities in the problems. Leaders think about the opportunities in the problem. So the problem happens, you look at it, don't go and sleep because it is a problem. You go and you start smiling and say, this is really an opportunity for me. This is an opportunity that we have to take advantage of and do things. So your chat thing, I was reading and said that lawyers are going to be, would we need lawyers? Because I can get all my legal advice, but you still need some human intervention. It may now need, it just speeds up the work. So you become more efficient than you would be. Those of you who will be using it to answering to assignments, to be doing your assignments, I think the people, the other people have already begun looking at how to develop.
Sir, please, if you are talking, I can't hear anything. I don't know if it is from my end, but then the sound is very low.
Oh, I thought I was alone in this. That's why I had to remove my
Here.
Can you hear me now?
Now it's clear.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that all these technology and all those things, they cause disruptions. They are crisis things. They come at a point, those of us who are in the industry and who are BBC, BBC? BBC is born before computer. Yes. So, and and a lot of us are going to be redundant, because then you don't know how to navigate your way. I was in a program, I think 2 weeks ago, and then something. So I started smiling, and then I was like, oh, but this thing can be done with chatbot or GPT. And then the other people were like, what is that animal looking like? And I'm like, no, you guys are going to go off your work. Already.
The volume has gone down again.
Can you hear? Is it clear now? I think
yes,
it's a position of my microphone. So when they asked, what type of animal is this? And I said, this is an animal in the IT, artificial intelligence, and that is going to dominate whatever we are doing. So you give students assignments, and then they will go there and then get it. They will write your thing. You are writing your motivation statement, and then it will write it nicely for you, and things like that. But they are finding ways of detecting that you just did use your chatbot, and then you copy it and paste it without putting your input there. And I think Italy has banned it. In Europe, Italy has banned ChatGPT, and other countries may follow. Germany and all other places may follow, until such a time that they are able to maybe sanitize the whole thing, especially as education is. But my concern in bringing it up is not about the disruption that is causing, or the potential disruption that is causing. My concern and interest in it is the opportunities that it presents to us as leaders. And so what we will be doing today is to look at crisis management and how crisis even manifest, and then how you take advantage of those crises to implement your work. Can you see the slide?
yes, please.
Okay. So when we are looking at crisis can come about as social. Crisis can
I guess this network issue from his end.
Come again.
I don't know. I'll say maybe he has network issue. I can't hear him. I can't even see his screen anymore.
I think he has also lost, or he's off, because I can't see him in the list of participants. So I think Erasmus is also part, so he can resolve it. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Erasmus. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So let me start again. What is our problem today? Hello, can you hear me now? Can you see the screen and can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. So I'll say that, so what we want to understand is the different types of crises, how you prepare yourself, and then whether there is a crisis or not, you have to continue your work. And we'll look at your risk management, that oftentimes we do our work without even ever thinking about the risk, and then how we respond to crisis. And then we may just take an example of the COVID that we just, which is still fresh in our mind, and we can leave, the examples are very distinct. So crisis management normally is how you apply strategies that would help your organization deal with a sudden event. So COVID again, is an example of a sudden event. And you know that when there are crises, when crises do occur, it either has an effect, health and safety issues, it will affect the organization's finances, and some of the times your reputation is also at stake. Something happens, and then your whole organization is gone. There was an organization in Haiti. They woke up early in the next day, and the organization, they pulled all the funding. Why? Because there was sexual harassment, and sexual harassment is a crisis. The next day, the organization was gone. The finance, they didn't have money again. The reputation in other countries is affected. You can, in the recent past, we are still trying to resolve it. I think a few weeks ago, we woke up in the day, by Sunday, a whole bank was gone. The crisis started on a Wednesday, and by Sunday, the bank was gone. So they could not deal with the crisis within the 2 working days. People went and took their money, and then there was like almost like a bank run, and then the Federal Reserve had the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation had to step in. So that is how crisis affects you. Crisis can be technological. And when we talk about technological crisis, there are cases like what I've just cited, of the ChatGPT. All of a sudden, you have a new application, AI, and then some people cannot do their work because they become obsolete. Those of you who started using computer earlier, there was and the computer guys made a lot of money out of it. They called it the Y2K bug. And the computer people came out with a gimmick and told all of us that the year Y2K, our computers were not going to work, and they were not computer Y2K compliant. And they made millions of money from organizations that were this. You go and get these computer guys, and then they'll come and say, oh yeah, we'll come and we've tested your computers and they are Y2K compliant. It was nothing. I'm sure the computers we were using were not that. And they keep making all sorts of things. Those of you using WhatsApp, I think last year or last 2 years, there was this thing that, by the next year, something of those people using a particular phone, you will not be able to access WhatsApp or something like that. So technological risk or crises are there. Financial crisis. Now, a lot of NGOs took donor money, instead of implementing programs, went and used the money to buy government bonds, government treasury bills. Now, so in the moment the government announced in Ghana and some other countries, the moment the government announced that they were going to do debt restructuring, there was a problem. Because then you have the money on paper, but you cannot implement your program because government is taking the money and saying, I'll give you at another date. In Zambia, where they defaulted in the payment of their bonds, charities that had invested in bonds had problems accessing their money. Up to now, some of them haven't been able to get. You have natural disaster. It can be a crisis. So where your office is located, the road is washed off. Nobody plans for the road washing off. Or we were having a program on the Legon campus 3 weeks ago, and then we didn't know where the rain came from. Early morning, the rain fell in some areas. Now, by the time I drove and got there, I was told that some part of people who were living in one section of Accra, the Medina Adenta section of Accra, they living in the low-lying areas, they were flooded. So all workers, assuming all your workers or you have an office there, you're having a problem. Crisis can be reputational. like people engage in these sexual molestation, as it happened in the case of Oxfam in Haiti. And then you also have the issue of deception. You would go and you go and deceive the people. There are a lot of NGOs, a lot of development agencies that have gone to promise the beneficiaries that, oh, we're going to do this thing. And then it turns out that it's a deception. Or some other people go into those communities in your name. So very often you see disclaimer. These people, their name looks like our name. And therefore, be very careful when you are dealing with them. So that's how your crisis happens. So the whole crisis issue are what you need to understand and how to manage them is the before. There's certain activities that you have to do at the before. Before the crisis, don't let the crisis even occur. Most of our organizations did not anticipate and prepare for COVID. Almost all, they did not anticipate and prepare for COVID. When Ebola struck, what a lot of organizations in areas where they didn't see Ebola, they started doing the preparation. And I remember in my organization, we started by having things to know, wash your hands, don't shake hands, and there was a whole tall list of things at the entrance that you have to observe. And there was a team how to report if you touch somebody who you suspected had also touched an Ebola infested and things like that. So you have to have that before preparatory phase. And then if you are taken by surprise, like COVID took us by surprise, then it's during the crisis. You have to develop your action plan and then how to deal with that. So a lot of the way we all went by COVID was looking at just the COVID thing, no information. So we're fact finding information strategies and doing a whole lot of things. It changed the narrative of how we're doing things, including even how education, one of the areas that was heavily impacted, education, and a lot of innovation took place. Prior to that, online meetings and all those Zooms and things were not really that popular. Now it is the order of the day. Even companies would do their annual general meetings online. And it has been accepted. Laws have been passed to regularize that. Don't just focus on during the crisis when it does happen. Be thinking of what you have to do to yourself after the crisis. And that is what has led to a lot of the problems we are facing in the world, in Africa. That a lot we focused a lot of the attention on managing the crisis, but a lot did not think of the after effect. Given if we're going by normal things and Ukraine and Russia hadn't happened, the COVID effect, most countries would have, the recovery would have started. The recovery proper, most countries would have recovered properly in quarter 3 of this year. If we did a simulation, the way that we did and we did a simulation, that is what the simulation pointed. And we also didn't think that there was going to be, even though on the drawing board, Ukraine, Russia had been on the drawing board properly. The fight had been since 2014. No one ever thought that it was going to be sooner. And then bingo, Ukraine, Russia comes in to further give us bigger nightmares than we can think of. It displaced a lot of people. It's changed things For us, we are still dealing with crisis. We are dealing with the COVID effect. The healthcare system in the world is gone. Your work, most of the work that we are doing as civil society, we have to really pivot and look at it differently. Before then, we were not using hand sanitizers. Very few people in the development world, as working and going to the field. Before COVID, very few of us were using hand sanitizers in the field. But now come the order of the day. People are still using and still using the face masks. And then we are still also doing our meetings and engagement on this. Some of our clients, we still meet them virtually. There's no need to go to the field. I mean, they are getting used to how we do, but we still need to find better ways of reaching out to our clients. So that is how you begin to look at how you manage your crisis. Now, before you do all these things as organizations, as CSOs, as social enterprises, what you have to do is to do your stress testing. And it involves you, as we said earlier on, describe your business model. And then you identify your stress factors. Then you map your business model to the stress factors. Whether if any of those things happens, it will affect you. And then you analyze the results. Now, many years ago, when I used to work as a consultant in management and we're doing financial projections for people, one of the things that we did was that we always did a downside analysis, what we call sensitivity analysis. So sensitivity analysis is a form of a stress test. So you would say that, what if these conditions happen? How will it impact our numbers? If we hold these conditions constant and these happen, what will be the effect on our numbers, on staff? How many people do we need, and all those things? And that is what you do as part of your stress test. There are different models that you can use, but one of the commonest things that is your downside analysis or the sensitivity analysis that I've said. So it should be part of the things that you do. So your business model that we have learned, we learned the business model. We have to look at it and say and make assumptions. If these things happen, how will it impact us? Anytime you are writing your concepts or your proposals, you have to have a page or two that you do you fuse the stress test with your risk framework. So you have to have a risk analysis, and we'll come to look at how the risk analysis looks like. But it's part of your stress testing, that these are the risks. If they occur, this is how I'll manage them. If they don't occur, this is what we will do. As part of your whole planning, as part of your crisis management strategies, you need to have business continuity planning. If the thing happens, will my business continue? Will our work continue? COVID is so fresh in our mind that I keep using that example. COVID happened and businesses are continuing. Some were wiped off. Some businesses collapsed. Ukraine-Russia war. Ukraine-Russia has happened, and if you go into Ukraine today, things are happening. Their schools are working. And they've been able to do and say the schools will work. You have people doing, they call it offline and online. So offline are students who are presently in Ukraine. The last time I was reading something, about 76,000 students globally returned to Ukraine early this year, because they have been able to develop a continuity plan that even with the war and the disruption in electricity and all that, we will continue to do our work. And that is how you do your continuity planning. How you respond to the stress, and it all feeds into your preparedness, how prepared you are to managing your crisis. Any questions? The whole issue about crisis and your proposal writing and your business planning and your model has to do with your risk, identifying risk. How do you manage your risk? And from the beginning, when you are putting these things together, you should be able to identify the risk, the number of them that you have to identify. You have to find a way to measure them and assess them. How do you mitigate them? And they should all, you have to develop a risk framework. And I'll show you an example of a risk framework that you can use as part of your work. So this is an example of a risk framework. So this is a live project that I just picked it to show you how we develop the risk. So our first risk in the identification, the top you see the yellow part, you have to, then the next one, you have identification. Under identification, you have the risk. So the risk here, we said foreign exchange. And then we have to classify the risk. You classify the risk as strategic, operational, financial, or a hazardous risk. When we're classifying foreign exchange, we looked at it more as a strategic and operational risk. Then in terms of how we can deal with it, is it an external or an internal, or is both? And we looked at it as both. We have to look at the quantity of risk. And here we're looking at probability. So what is the probability of this risk occurring? So we divided that into highly likely, likely, even chance, and unlikely. And then if it happens, what will be the impact? So critical, moderate, and low. And then how do we respond to it? The response technique. Do we avoid it? Do we transfer it? Do we control it? Do we accept or investigate? And then we have to describe the mitigation measures. So you see clearly that in whatever work you are doing, in whatever proposal you are doing, in your business canvas, in your business model, you should be able to come up with the risk that can affect your work. And here we had issues of fire outbreak at the factory, injury to staff, changes in government policy on interest rate, and things like that. So if you develop, whether the proposal, some proposal template will ask you to have a risk section. Some proposal templates will not ask you for the risk. But where they don't ask you, given what COVID has taught us, it is advisable, it is recommended that you develop your risk matrix. And then you use that to discuss the type of risk your project is likely. And during implementation, because you have a risk committee, you have to continue to update the risk. Some, as you are in a 5-year project, for example, some risk might become obsolete as you go. Some risk you may need to reclassify them. If you have this thing, and if all our programs had things like this, they could have forecasted and said, oh, a pandemic. At that time, what we knew in those days were more of epidemics. Pandemics, we have not really in our lifetime not seen any pandemic. We had all, as for epidemics, we had heard. And if there's a librarian here, and those who have seen Ebola, in the Ebola days, if you were traveling now as in East Africa, the moment I landed and the people got to know that I was coming from West Africa, they just consigned us that, oh, in West Africa, Ebola is devastating us, you know. And so the way they handled us even at the airport and things like that, because they have planned for it, you know. So make sure that as part of your risk management strategies or your crisis management, don't wait for it to become the crisis. Have this one, and it is the before. This is what you have. This is what is the before stage. And then when it happens, you manage them. So you realize that this particular framework really answers those questions of before, during, and after. You already have taken and you have contemplated. They are in your mind that if they do occur, this is how I would reorganize myself, and this is how we intend to go. But NGOs in the COVID days, nothing. We're just doing things. And then clear management plan, having your communication plan, and your containment measures. It has happened. So how do we contain it? We still have to come to work. We may repurpose our organization. So you see that organizations have to repurpose this and then do a lot of pivoting. So some people who were manufacturing soap, once there was lockdown, we were not going out. So the number of times perhaps we were bathing or washing our pens had reduced. So some manufacturers, they couldn't sell their soap. It has reduced. So a lot of them quickly went into the manufacture of hand sanitizers. And one of your leaders pivoted, used a strategy, repurposed their business, started manufacturing hand sanitizers, and they got a national award because they were very proactive. They didn't wait to be swept off. The alcohol manufacturers could easily do it. So they just went into the manufacture of alcohol and then they turned it into hand sanitizers. I remember in December, I had done my wild reading and there was this, I knew that COVID was coming. And then, you know, I went to buy hand sanitizers and took them to the office and distributed. And people were looking at me, there's something wrong with you, you know. Then by March, when I went back to the shop to buy the hand sanitizers, there was none. And then because that was the time the office then started looking for hand sanitizers. You know, so let us always look at that. And for you, CSO, your key area is how to repurpose your organization and how to do your pivoting. Now, when COVID struck, was implementing a program, a $2 million program, and then clearly it was clear that the team couldn't go to the field. We had to go to the field to do the work. We couldn't go to the field. So quickly had to do a reorganization. And because we didn't have hand sanitizer as part of the budget, nose masks as part of the budget. Now, if you have to go and meet people, they had given distancing, social distancing. So in a room, if we're training about 30 people, this time you cannot train 30 people because you have to give that distance. And so the number will reduce to around 20. If it reduces to 20, it means that you are creating a third class. For every 60 people that were training, we did it in 2 sessions. Now, 60 people, you have to do it in 3 classes. That means different budgets. And that is why you need to have a very critical look at how you adjust to these things. Any questions? Any comments from the team and how you dealt with it in your organization? Anybody with an example of how you dealt with it in your organization? Share with us. Let this one be participatory.
Okay, hello.
Yes.
During the COVID, because we were having trainings for farmers. What we do?
Get closer to your microphone.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
So what we actually did when we come to feed is we normally attempts we train close to like over 20 persons, but they give us a restriction that the number of persons we should be training at a go is 20. So we have to space them. We come with hand sanitizers, and we also come with this liquid and wash for them too. So that was how we were able to manage the situation then in the field with the farm.
But did you have these hand sanitizers and all those in your budget? What did you do?
I'm not with finance budget. I'm not with the finance department, but actually the organization provided it for us to take to the field. Even the nose masks that were shared, the farmers were shared free. So whenever we go for training, because these people might not readily get these equipment.
Okay.
So whenever we go for training, we go with these things and we distribute it to them.
Okay. Okay. So what had happened is that there was a repurposing of budget items. So some budget items were moved and then had to be used to buy hand sanitizers, to buy nose masks, and then it increased the number of days that you stayed in the field. And that had to be costed. Yes, Sarah.
Yes, good afternoon. Okay, I want to share before the, during before the COVID lockdown, we had a plan of going to public schools to sensitize girls. We had a campaign organized, organized a campaign. So while at the planning process, we had already finished planning, we were just waiting for execution. Then the COVID lockdown came, and it was intended to, we intended to round up the program by 28th of May that year. So, and we, but because of the COVID lockdown, and the students were not, could not go to school. So we had to strategize another means of carrying out the project, because if we have to wait for them to resume, we didn't know when they were going to resume, because there wasn't any definite time for resumption. So we had to strategize. Basically, it was to educate young girls. So what we did was, since we had already written letters to school, and they've approved our coming to the school, what we did was to reach out to the principal and sought for contacts of parents. If we sought for contacts of parents to reach out to them, especially parents who are within our community, since we're not allowed to go very far away. So we were able to call some of these parents, then let them know that we collected their numbers from the school. We told them, we explained what our and our sensitization, our campaign was. So many of them approved. So what we did was, we went, then we visited most of these houses, but we ensured that we were able to observe social distancing. We took our social distancing, we took our nose masks to their houses. Then we were able to mobilize the girls within the environment. So what we did was, besides the girls who were in the school, we were also able to add the girls that were out of school. So instead of going to schools during the lockdown, what we did was to have a street campaign. So we went street by street, mobilized the girls. So what we made sure we did was to ensure social distancing. We ensured that they had their nose masks on. Then we ensured that before we started, they had to use the hand sanitizer, so that in case we are sharing anything, or two people have to hold a particular placard, they won't have to be any, you won't have to spread any disease. Then besides that, we also, because then it was just to go to schools, the social media was not included in our campaign. The radio was not included in our campaign. So we came up with reaching out to people through social media. So we had to take our campaign to the social media. Then we also had to take our campaign to radio stations. Even though we didn't visit the radio stations, we were able to communicate with them. So we spoke their phone while they aired it. So that was how we were able to carry out our campaign. So the street visits helped us to distribute the sanitary pads we had as souvenirs for the young girls, while the radio helped us to reach out to more audience, and the social media helped us to reach out to more audience. So through the social media, many people knew what we were doing. So we also used that to raise funds that we used to buy the sanitary pads. Thank you.
So what it meant is that you have to change your strategy. What you were doing, you have to change it. Now from this one, because you have to do it in the community where you are, it's chances are that you may not even hit your target that you.
Yes, but after the lockdown, I think we're able to carry out these things within January to March. Then in April, the schools that were not within our environment, like the schools within Kaduna South and Kaduna North local government, were able to visit those schools after the COVID lockdown. So we're able to visit them after the COVID lockdown to carry out the campaigns in those specific schools.
Yeah, but in all these things, you would realize that you had not planned for it before the COVID. But when the COVID came, you have to then use a response plan, a response strategy. And that is how you responded to the COVID. So in all these things, one of the lessons, and it's so relevant today, that most of us who don't think about what can happen. I'm always the people think that I think I'm always overthinking, but I always believe that things can go wrong. Things can go wrong. And so right from the word go, prepare yourself and know that if it goes wrong, this is how I'll respond to it. A lot of the times in our organizations, a lot of the organizations that we had, nobody thought, gone are the days where your schools frowned on the use of online. The use of online was not something that we had caught up. Now it is now part. So more or less blended, people, a lot of the universities in the world are now doing blended learning. So we do this and we have online, go and learn, and then there will be that interaction where live webinar session, and then things will be explained and we'll go. And that is how things have, COVID has taught us how to do things like that. Within our work, we also have to begin to think, and then we innovate and keep innovating within the context that things can go wrong. When they go wrong, this is how we approach them. So the sexual exploitation thing that happened in Haiti, involving one of the biggest NGOs in the world, you know that something like that can go wrong. So a lot of organizations have, as part of their HR policies, they now have what you call anti-fraternization clauses. And you have to sign anti-fraternization clause as part of your the HR. If your HRs are not doing that, go take it and go and tell them that they have to begin to let you do that, sign, because it has brought a lot of organizations down. And I've seen organizations that woke up in the morning, the next day the organization was gone. I've seen organizations or an organization where, as part of the training, for example, you should be able to develop a health and safety manual, a health and safety response on your training. So an example, we're doing a program in the natural resource management on what is called the Elephant Corridor in West Africa. And the Elephant Corridor comes through Togo and goes into Nigeria. And then they come into Ghana, they go through Burkina, come back into Ghana, go to Ivory Coast, and then they go there. So that is where the elephants, the migratory elephant, they are, and there's Elephant Corridor. So this program was a natural resource to get the people who live in the fringes of the corridor not to do things that would interfere with the habitat of the elephants. And so we're doing training. And the training that we're doing, the field team went to the training field to do it. Now they were training these women how to use moringa to do soap as an ingredient in their soap. And you know, in any soap manufacturing or most soap manufacturing, there is an element of caustic soda. It was a training. The young lady who was doing the training, she never in her contemplation thought that at this training program, a young mother would come to the training program with her baby, 3-year-old son or daughter, something like that. And then she also, when they brought the little girl boy, the young lady did not also think that, look, we keep this person to make sure that the child doesn't interfere in the training, and then the child doesn't also go and do things. Unfortunately for her, the child drank caustic soda. Can you imagine the biggest blow in that thing? As at home, when she called crying, Uncle, I said, what's the problem? There's an accident. What's accident? Somebody has drunk caustic soda. I'm like, Jesus, what is this? You know, immediately the matter was escalated to the donor. The donor came with a tall list. Do you have a health and safety plan? And I'm just telling you, in order not to lose my job, in order not to lose the money, and for all those people who are already there, a health and safety manual was created that night and shared. And then how to deal with the response. Now, what it meant is that the before phase, we had failed as an organization. We didn't anticipate it. We only started doing the management phase and then subsequently how to deal with training. So now going forward, all our training, there's a budget to cater for breastfeeding mothers or mothers who come with their kids. So if you are budgeting, you budget for 2 people. That is the mother as the attendee plus a nanny, so that the nanny will take care of the baby whilst the mother is there. But previously, we didn't look at it as part of the budgeting. We just budgeted training program, 20 people, how many women will come? Half of them will be women. How many of them are likely to be breastfeeding? 0. We don't do that. But this is taught as a lesson. And that is how you manage crisis, how rapidly you do it. Fortunately for us, the child did not die and was not also hospitalized. He only went to the hospital. He just got a few bends. I think as the thing just went into the mouth, it bent the child. So a lot of it didn't go into the stomach. This comes in the area in what we call reputational damage. And our organization would have been gone, would have been wiped off the surface, that we are reckless, insensitive, and we don't take care of our participants. So this is how these things can affect your organization. Anybody with the example of COVID or any other program that you had to deal with it, crisis. Anybody? I'm going to name names. Community health. Who is that community health? Community health for who is using their credentials? How about Grace?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so for mine, I don't know if it's crisis or not, because for the organization I work with, in drafting a budget, we put a line item for contingencies. So I think there was one time that we were doing a literacy project, and we work a lot with volunteers, so students from the various universities who come on to give back to society. So I think there was one of the day that a volunteer came. She was all right at the beginning, but ended up at the hospital at the end of the project. So if we didn't have this line item for contingency, we didn't have known where in the budget to take care of her hospital bills and all that. So that's just the example I have for now.
Okay. From my whole background in as a person in finance, the contingency is a line that is frowned on. Is just to make up the numbers. Now, given my exposure in crisis management, when I see contingency on your budget, the next thing is I'll ask you to give me the back end of that contingency. So what actually makes up the contingency? Does it feed into your crisis management strategy? Is it feeding into your risk management and mitigation strategy? Those are the questions that I will ask. If your budget came to me as a donor and I'm going to give you money, those are the questions that I'll ask. And then if they are not properly asked, I'll just throw your budget away that you just made it up. So when you go to your organization, elevate it to the next level. You elevate it to the next level and say, okay, contingency, and giving this explanation that somebody fell sick and you have to use that money. You then begin to say, okay, let us begin to quantify all those things that can happen, all those things that can go wrong. And if they went wrong, how do we deal with them? And will this amount of money do for them? Because there are sometimes that you may even put a contingency and it is not adequate to deal with those crises that have happened. It may not be adequate to deal with that. So begin to yeah. Any other? Where's Adna song? Today you haven't spoken, or she's not here today.
Isabella. That's Isabella.
Isabella is here, yeah. You haven't spoken on what the Adna issue and the crisis, how your organization is dealing with that.
Yes. Please, today I don't really have much to say. I'm listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Millicent. Okay, Zainab. How about Tijani?
I also don't have anything to say. So let's go to this.
So let's go on. I'm not going to waste my time on these things, you know. So you when your the COVID thing happened, these were the key domains that were affected. There were slowdown, survivor, business, unemployment, you know, people lost their jobs, and then you have supply chain disruption, workforce, education, which we have spoken about, our habits change all of a sudden. A lot of us were not eating a lot of the, all of a sudden people started drinking sobolu across. And then we started taking in things that we ordinarily were not taking. It changed a whole lot of things for a number of us. Hotels were affected, trade, all those things. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just go on to what we have to do as. So, as leaders, and I keep saying, the difficulty is not the problem. It is what we see in that difficulty. It is the opportunities we see that should be our concern. And we should begin to train our minds in whatever crisis that happens. If it sweeps you off your feet as a debt to the governments of the world, what opportunities are there? And you could see innovators came up, young innovators, your people, including your good self. You were able to innovate, to find ways of dealing with the problems that the COVID has done. A lot of you have begun to even elevate the issue of e-commerce. Now, in the e-commerce in the old style, you've changed the game now. People are doing online marketing and online sales and all that in a different fashion. I've seen the new models that some of them are using. They don't even stock. All they do is to advertise the product, and then they tell you it will be delivered in 2 or 3 days. And then once you confirm the order, you don't even need to pay, but they will go to the shop and look for it and then come and give it to you. That is what things have they change. Food delivery. It has forced a lot of us to also even the use of social media, to be very social media savvy. Unfortunately, maybe a number of people my age are not still still have been left behind. But if they want to be part of the hurricane that is blowing, the AI and all those things, they have to begin to learn these things. A lot of you also who are not savvy with internet and all that have become very good in that. So you begin to see the opportunities in the difficulties that the crisis created. And I'm sure the current crisis that is blowing, the global debt crisis that is blowing across the left and best of African countries, is also beginning to give us another thing. In Nigeria, where they're having difficulty in accessing currency when they change their money, it's also introducing opportunities for people to be able to survive in there. Now, the opportunities normally in these things are new products, and I think extensively Prince kept mentioning new products, but it also increases your market. Now, a lot of people have developed new products and they've developed new markets. I was so shocked looking at on the a WhatsApp page that I am, and somebody is advertising school preparation. So young people who are going to secondary school, and then they need to prepare them to go to the secondary school. Hitherto, we didn't have this type of orientation. Now, somebody has introduced an orientation program for kids who have passed and they are going to secondary school. So all they need to do is to pay an amount, and then they do the preparation before they go. So by the time they go to the secondary school, they already understand what it is to be in the secondary school. Technology, and we know extensively how this thing has come. And now the latest thing is our AI thing that is trying to wipe a lot of people. And most of you are Generation Z, or some of you are Generation Z, and you need to begin to look at AI vis-a-vis what Gen Z can do with that. And so the opportunity in crisis are what is important and not the crisis themselves. And as I kept saying, when COVID struck and I went to the field to spend about 4 or 5 months in the middle and the heat of COVID, and everybody was like, "Are you crazy?" And at some point I thought there was something wrong with maybe I needed some to take my medication. I mean, literally. I was like, why everybody is running away and you are confronting this? But it opened my mind. I was so amazed at the things that I was seeing and the things that I could do. Immediately I thought of a new products. By the time I came home, I had developed about, I think, five products. And then I went somewhere on the young people were doing an innovation. There was an innovation platform for them to showcase the things they innovated. And some of the young people came, and some of the things that I was thinking of that I was going to do, they were showing them there, and I'm like, wow, this is it. So let us look at the opportunities. People couldn't bring their produce from the hinterlands into the market, but then some of those produce were perishable. How do you get them into the hinterlands and they don't perish? And the products that are developed in my thinking, I just wrote them down, but I haven't gone to the market yet. Maybe in the next few years. So for you, this is what you have to begin to do. Business continuity plan and recovery. So the thing has happened. You've been affected badly. What do you do? What do you do? Even as young people with CSO, you can also even position yourself as a continuity advisor to other NGOs, because you have developed and you know that this is how I can help my other friends with CSO recover. This is the plan we can do. Data mining. So you begin to take your lessons on your data mining or data science or data something and mine data, and then it becomes a product for you and things like that. And things like financial interventions. You may need to retrain people, or you yourself will have to also need retraining. These are the opportunities for retraining yourself or your staff, and asking people to take some other things. And it is all part of the opportunities in a crisis that you have to capitalize on. At the firm level, when it happens, how do you survive? You have to recalibrate your budget. Recalibrating your budget means that you take your second look at your budget and then move things around. You have to renegotiate with your suppliers. So, for example, one of the organizations that I work or one of my organizations, when COVID struck, it hit us badly. We almost laid off everybody because there was no business. lockdown just affected us. And even after the COVID, it took us a long time. Now, so what did we have to do? One, we could not pay our rent. So we went back to the landlord and discussed, landlord, can you reduce the rent for us? This is the problem. We went to the staff and met the staff and said, there are two options for you, staff. And you know the option. It's either we lay you off, but we don't want to lay anybody off. So what do you propose? Our second option is to do a pay cut. And the staff agreed a pay cut and that they work from home. And we did a pay cut so that we don't lay off anybody. And then you work, maybe if you are doing, so what we simply did was just, if you're working for the 30 days, 1 month, we'll say, okay, now you work for 15 days. And then we will cut your pay and pay you the 15 days salary. You know, it's a win-win situation. And then over time, we did one thing, we pivoted one arm, and then we got some funding from the government of Ghana. And that was what saved the situation, and then we could bounce back. So finally we bounced back, and we are really doing that. During that, our customers, we're not getting customers or our people, the people we're working with. So we have to empathize with them. And putting ourselves in their shoe meant that we have to reduce our rates. You know, the staff were employed. So these are the strategies on how you survive. Don't do anything in panic. And then you have to look at your internal controls, your capacity. You need to do a lot of things. We have to then immediately go into an IT mood to look at it. So staff can work from home. Our accounting processes, you can sit at home and then do things. Every now and then, they are either sending me things that I have to approve by online, or where I have to see the document physically, then I either go there or they bring it here. So we engage a driver who can do all those things traveling around, you know. So that is how you respond to the crisis as you move. Any questions? Any comments? Any ideas that we can share on how we will deal with it? And I hope we are learning lessons from this, and it's going to help us to deal with crisis and how we can manage our internal organization. Any contributions?
I just want to, maybe for clarification, let's say, for example, I want to use something that I'm quite familiar with.
Great.
Okay, I live in Kaduna here in Nigeria, okay, and we have highly been affected by conflicts and basically insecurity.
Okay.
Especially as regards kidnap and lynching by bandits. Or for many, let's use, for example, agricultural or projects that are related to education or so, are taken to rural areas. So, and one of the risks we'll be looking at there is insecurity, because if the place may be safe at this moment, but we may not be aware of any, we can only take cognizance of any future attacks, because these attacks don't come with a letter or anything. You just hear in the news, like for example, yesterday, a particular village was affected, attacked, and left 8 people dead. I know with this kind of things, if there is an attack, definitely a particular project will not hold, because it has affected the particular program. And now let's say, for example, we are planning our activity and we include risk. and we include it as part of the risks or challenges we may face in the future, considering the location where we have selected to carry out our project. Now, for clarity, because if I'm thinking that I have to work with police officers or security agents from within the state to ensure, work with police officers within the state to ensure that the place is secured, I may not be right about the solution, that's the future solution I'm giving about this particular risk. So how would I be? Because at some point there are particular, it's easy for us to
Sarah, you dropped.
identify the risk, but
yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yes, it's also a different thing looking for the solution to that risk in case it occurs. So
Yeah.
I just need clarity.
Your risk has, this particular risk has several dimensions. One, when it does occur and you are not there, or it can occur and then you haven't yet moved in there. That one, you know that the thing has happened. You may then have to readjust your budget and maybe look for another community, because then you cannot, you are not safe that there will not be occurrence again, or that the community members will come out because the thing has happened. That is one. The other dimension of this risk is that you may even be caught up. You may be caught up in the crossfire. So you go there, like the places you are talking of. Your members went in there, and then the day they were there, they were caught in the crossfire. That's the most dangerous part of it. So as part of your risk mitigation measure, what you do is to have an evacuation plan. That when it happens and you are you are caught up in the crossfire, what you do, how you evacuate yourselves, or how people are evacuated. That is what you have to do. When there is an injury of the people who are caught up in the crossfire, how do you take them to safety? So those are the plans, how you develop the plan and move in there. But to go with policemen, sometimes it is not the best of it. What you rather do, but because over there you cannot predict, but what you rather do, and what I have done in an insecure area, is we're planning to do a program in a place we considered to be volatile. So what we did was, and I was part of the risk team, or the risk and security team. Now, the risk and security team, we spent two months moving and going into the community to do the assessment on safe zones where people can escape routes, the nearest hospital, the type, and even did an assessment of the hospitals up to the regional level, where the clinic, the health center, the teaching hospital, and then to the extent of looking at the type of doctors and nurses that will be available. And it was an elaborate plan that we did before we moved in with the team. And so, fortunately, nothing happened. But that is how we laid out this. So there are a lot of dimensions to this. It can happen when you are not there. Once you are not there and it has happened, you repurpose. Just write to the donor and say, look, we are changing. We are not going to go there again. We're changing. But when you are already inside it, the team is there working, and it happens, you should have contemplated how you would take people to safety, how you evacuate people, how you move people. Like those of you who are in those of you from Ghana, a similar situation like in the Boku area. And so when I travel, I have an impending traveling to go there. They can shoot, the guns just come like that, papa, papa. But one of the things is not to go and stay there. So you look for a community that they will not even come closer. But it's not too far, and you keep going and coming. And then before then, you have also tried to get your local intel on how the bandits move. And then you avoid corridors that the bandits would be moving. The other one that we also use is that not to brand our vehicles. So we don't brand the vehicles. Because the moment you brand the vehicles, they get. And then one of the things that the bandits also like in a lot of these conflict prone zones is they like Toyota pickups. Toyota pickup, if you venture with a Toyota pickup in some of the conflict areas in northern Ghana,
I don't know if I'm the only one that cannot hear you better.
Okay, can you hear me?
It's very low.
Can you hear me?
So,
Yeah, same
yeah,
here.
no.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that your intel gathering and your risk mitigation measures should even include the type of logistics that you carry to the police. So you know the bandits, they like Toyota. If you just watch the videos of bandits in the extremists in the on the continent and elsewhere. One of the vehicles they like using is the Toyota and the pickup. So you go in there with that type of vehicle and you are exposed. Number two, you don't also brand it. You brand it and then they see this is an NGO, you are exposed. And your team members should also be made aware that even when they go into lodgings, into hotels, they have to take extra precaution and know how to do. On my journey to Nigeria by road, and then just around in Ghana, I didn't even cross. I went to lodge in a hotel that night. That night, as I was the guy had seen me, or people had seen me, sure they watched me. I'd come down, and then they saw my car. They were thinking that I was going to drive to across, and then they saw me and some other guy sitting at the reception. I think we just bought a drink, and they thought we were drunk, you know. So when we retired and we went to bed at midnight, around 1 a.m., somebody was forcing to open our door. You know, so those are the extra precautions that you need to take, and to know that they exist. This work that you're doing, that is the other side of it. Is your intel gathering must be up to speed. You have to literally behave as though you are maybe a security person yourself, and know where the bandits are, how the routes they use. You know, you should even be able to observe that this behavior is something like that. But it takes a lot of training, a lot of moving to the field to really get to know some of these things. And then maybe occasionally, as you are doing your risk mitigation measure, you may have to call in some experts to take you through and get you to, especially the field team, to know how to get. So that even where the bandits, where the unfortunate happens and you are kidnapped, you know how to behave and not to be wounded or something like that. But I agree with you that it's something that you don't know. You can forecast it, but you don't know when it occurs. And that's the other side of the risk in general. Any questions? Any contributions? Sarah has contributed. Any other? Al Hassan, Abdul Razak, Bawa. Al Hassan. Any contribution from you? Obi. Obi, you are not talking. We have the Grace Bremer, and then there's another Grace. None of you has made any contribution.
Oh, sir, Grace Bremer spoke.
Okay, so the other Grace.
I've actually listened to the lesson and I don't really have any contribution. It's just I just want to add to what Sarah sees in Nigeria, and these are some of the challenges that face NGOs whenever it is want to embark on a project. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you say it again? That this is what happens NGOs face in Nigeria.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. But can you repeat that?
Okay, what I wanted to say earlier was that I really don't have a contribution, but just like Sarah rightly said, in Kaduna, in Nigeria, these are some of the challenges NGOs face when they want to embark on a certain project. These are some of the risks that we are.
But you don't have the risk. But how about those of us who occasionally go to Somalia and Sudan, South Sudan, or in DR Congo? I mean, these are areas where you have NGOs moving in. War zone, especially when you are working with humanitarian organizations. So you have to be able to get your whole risk framework properly, and your intel gathering. Because this particular job of civil society, social enterprise, you go to the difficult terrains. You go to difficult terrains. And if you don't, there are some times that we have been to fields where you give people lift, and these are warring factions, the two different sides of a particular conflict, and you give them their men. You are going, you meet them on the way, and you pick them, and then they are sitting there. You are going, but you see that nobody talks about the war. You don't get in there to ask them about the conflict, because they have to see you as a neutral person. They have to see you as an independent person. And one of the things, learned it in the different subject, is being independent is a very onerous tax, and the independence must be seen. To be independent, the people don't take you for granted and think you're taking sides. Your parents, whose mic is on?
Hello.
Tijani, can the host help us in muting Tijani? Can the host help us in muting Tijani? Tijani, can you mute yourself?
Please,
Your mic was on, and so the background was just interfering with us. I think
Sorry for that.
Yeah, can you put it off here? So as I was saying, the work we are doing, there are times that we may have to go into difficult areas. They're not looking for us in the urban centers. Or if you are from Lagos, they are not in VI. That's not where they are looking for us in VI. If they are looking for, even within Lagos, is a trouble spot, maybe Oshodi market. That is where there's a kiosk. That's what they want us to come and do, to come and work. Or Kaduna, somewhere where we have bandits coming in and out. So you have to, as part of some of the skills that you have to learn, should include you being independent. And independence has two sides. In the appearance of it, you should appear independent, and you have to actually demonstrate that you are independent. Oftentimes, we demonstrate that we are independent, but in appearance, we are not able to show that we are independent. So, for example, you go to an area where they are wearing factions, and then you are seen, you are seen with one of the factions eating. Even though when you are eating, you are not discussing anything about the business, but the fact that somebody has seen you eating with them would go and tell everybody that this person is supporting this particular group. So in your appearance, you haven't done that. So it's a whole skill set that when you find yourself intervening in conflict-prone areas, these are the other skills that you have to cultivate in managing the risk of your intervention in the conflict zones. And conflict will never, they will continue to be there. They will be there. Once they are human beings, we will continue to have conflicts. Any comment, any contributions? Millicent, you haven't spoken today. Millicent, you haven't spoken today.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, good afternoon. I do not have any contributions to make, sir.
You have two contributions to make. Can you hear you?
No, I do not have any contribution to make, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Prince Opoku.
Sir, I'm fine. I think I'm okay. Everything is okay.
Okay.
And before you call my name, I'm also fine.
Sandra Yeboah.
Yes.
You guys are all running away from contributions. So I take it that we
yeah, please, it's not like we are running away. It for me it's a bit technical, so that's why I'm listening.
Risk, how should risk be technical? Every day you come across risk. At least if you don't know any risk or crisis, you've come across COVID and what it did, and how did you respond to it? The Adansongo Lagoon thing, isn't it a crisis?
It is, please, yes. It is.
It's a crisis. And the people are blowing up each other's head. And all these, you need a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to function within a crisis zone. So my friends in Kaduna, you are doing well, and you just need to up the game and then navigate that. Are there any people from the Delta area here where we have a lot of those kidnappings going on? Anybody's personal experience, how you navigated, there was a crisis, and how you navigated in your organization? Any questions? Any comments? Otherwise, then I'll take it that we are done with this module. You can always reach, if you have further questions or further things, now that I'm on your platform, you can always then you can ask those questions there. You can I'll respond to you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so Erasmus and David, any announcements? Erasmus, David, Jasper, any announcements?
Hello.
Yeah, Erasmus, yeah.
So I guess currently we are done for today. So hopefully we are having the last session next week, right?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Yeah.
So participants would all do well to remember the time and assign in on time so that we complete this experiential session in a very memorable manner. So on this note, Mr. Baba, if there are no other information, we can close.
Okay, I have a question.
Great.
Okay.
What's it called? Course online. Can we start it? The one on our
Your line is breaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
David, our experiential course, can we start it? Because the timetable is just saying our civic society civic leadership and course from now till the 18th of March of this month, sorry, of April. So we don't have a timetable telling us when to start that experiential course. That's why I'm asking if we can start it now. Since it's online, we have videos to watch online. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. And please do hold on for us. As part of your experiential learning, some of the activities has already been done in the middle of the program. One of it is the poster preparations and presentations, which of course we are going to come up with a day where we will have a team to assess your work and give feedbacks as possible. So we'll communicate all of that with you. And then the most prime one will have to be the simulation, which of course we are done with all the details. So hopefully we should send them to you by next week. The reason why we do not want to bring all of this together is to stay away from the confusion, because when the sessions are going on and you keep on bringing in new activities, it confuses the whole platform. So, and then the participants as well, looking at the number we are dealing with. So we'll go a step at a time. We will make sure we communicate everything to you at the appropriate time. So kindly hold on for us. So for now, you have until the 8th of this month to complete the track sessions. So we are making sure we keep to the time. And then we know when to communicate all of that to you. Because all of that is going to be done in a different grouping, with different groupings. So.
Okay, please, can I ask for clarity? So that, because I understood what you said, but for clarity, it means that for now we should hold on with that of preparing for internship and community service.
Yes,
then
that's
business writing skills. So we should hold on with that.
Yes. So what we are doing is, when you go to the experiential learning space, there are some videos or lessons that are on the platform. For that, yes. So for those ones, there are resources which are meant for you, so you can engage them. And there are some also will have to put you in groupings for you to do the activities and then present in a live session. But any other thing that's already on the platform, you can go ahead and engage those resources.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Baba, thank you.
Thank you.